Today we are going to witness a game played in the 19th Asian Games 2023 between Gukesh Dommaraju versus Param Maqsoodlu from Iran. And this game was played between India versus Iran, and it is a very interesting game. And in the end of the game, the position where Gukesh resigned is actually a draw. You won't believe it, but it's a draw. The position at which he resigned. And it's very interesting to see a top grandmaster like Gukesh, one of the best in the world, resigning in a position which is a draw. So it's going to be extremely interesting position to watch. And let's quickly discuss the game. But before starting the game, if you're new to our channel, then make sure to like the video, share this video with everyone, and make sure to subscribe to our channel. So now let's quickly jump to the game. So Param is playing with white pieces. A very strong grandmaster from Iran starts out the game with 1d4. And Gukesh replies with knight f6. And we have a game with 1d4. And we have this. The opponent played the move, the semi-Slav defense, and we have the move knight to d7, bishop d3, and black simply took and played the move b5. The reason black captured on c4 is quite obvious because white have played the move bishop d3. So if we try to capture, white have already wasted a move. We play the move b5, a6, and black's idea is usually to break in the center by playing the move c5, which happened in the game. And after e5, Gukesh took the decision of capturing the d4 pawn, and here white takes the pawn on b4. If you try to capture the knight, black is going to capture the knight as well, and after pawn takes, bishop takes, you cannot really capture the pawn because you lose the rook. So after pawn takes, you have to capture the pawn. If you try to capture the pawn, knight c5 is already very interesting position for black. Black is extremely very comfortable in the position. The bishop is hanging, and black is very comfortable. So white decided to capture the pawn on b5, giving up the knight and eventually capturing the knight as well. Bishop to b4 checked by Gukesh and intermezzo. Bishop d2, capturing the bishop. Queen to f6. And if we count the material, black is having 6 pawns and white is having 5 pawns. So typically white is a pawn down, but eventually white captured the pawn on b5 and it's an equal position, material-wise. And here we have e4. So talking about some imbalance in the position, black is having a nice center and white is having 2 outside passes on the queen side. So it's just a matter of fact to see which side is going to go first. So after e5, black is playing very concrete chess. He's using the center because the d4 pawn was hanging, so he played the move e5, short castle, and we have short castle. And from now on, both the players are going to play aggressive chess. Rook to e1, trying to put some pressure on the pawn on e5. So we have rook to d8, putting the rook on the same file as the queen. Queen to e2, putting some pressure on the pawn on e5, not preparing to capture the pawn. Bishop a6, trading of the bishop, and we have a queen trade as well. And here, white simply captured the pawn on e5. So I'm trying to wonder if at the place of playing the move rook g8 was it anything else. Like if playing the move rook here, trying to protect the pawn on e5. It's not working because of the move knight into d4, and you can't really capture because the rook is hanging. So that's the main reason you can't really protect this pawn anymore. So that was the reason black played the move bishop a6, and eventually we have everything, and black lost a pawn, and we have this position where white is the one eventually a pawn up, but only 3 steps away from being a queen. So black simply pushing up the pawn, king f1, and now playing the move g6. If you try to push the pawn, white is simply going to get the king, or maybe just simply stopping with the rook, and now just simply getting the king in, or maybe the rook, and capturing the pawn. So g6 first, just simply avoiding any checkmate ideas. Because if you try to play the move d2 here, and if you try to capture the pawn, white is simply going to capture the pawn. You cannot capture because it's a one move mate. So that's why g6, and now pulling the rook back, so that if pawn push, he can use another rook to attack the pawn, and other rook to defend the pawn on a2. So rook to c8 by Gukesh, trying to enter at the second rank of white. Rook c1, white is not allowing it. Rook e8, trying to enter like this. And here finally Param is like, okay, if you want to enter to my second rank, you can, but I'm going to push my pawn on the queen side. Rook to a3, trying to stop his a pawn. Rook b1, and now the idea is pretty clear. Black is trying to stop the pawn. A better move would have been to play the move rook e2, allowing b5, and eventually playing the move rook c3, pawn push, rook c2, b7, and eventually on time it's a draw. Black can capture the pawns, everything, and it's a draw. You can't really make any progress in the position. Oh, sorry about that. White have to play here. If you try to go here, rook e2 check, and it's a mate. So yeah, it's a draw. But again, Black decided to went for on defense, which was not a good idea though. b5, king f8, and trying to bring the king. And slowly and steadily, Black's idea is to play the move rook e2, so White avoids it. And we have this position, check, takes. And eventually, when the dust settles, White is simply a pawn up, and it's going to be only White is playing for the two results, either a draw or a win. Rook to a4, trying to hit the h4 pawn. White is like, okay, if you want to capture my pawn, you can, but eventually now I'm winning the game. You are as one step late. So Black can't really capture, so king c7, and now trying to defend. And the most interesting thing is, after king b6, king e3, you can't really go for capturing the pawn, because White would love to give the pawn, because eventually in this position the king is far away from the pawn, and White is simply going to capture all the three pawns and eventually make the queen and checkmate the Black king. So Black have to keep the pawn. He really cannot capture the pawn, so Black is trying to cut off the White's king. So White finally tried to get the king, and if we have this position, if you again try to capture the pawn, White is still on time. So Black again trying to cut off White's king. Check, takes finally, and the position is equalish, but still White's king is a bit more active compared to the Black king. But White tried to push, and eventually we landed on the position, which is the most interesting one. We have this position, and from here we are going to discuss the most interesting, intense moments that happen in the game. After rook g7, on the move number 64, Gukesh decided to resign the game. He's playing with the black pieces and he simply resigned the game. He thought it's a lost game because it's clear that Black is losing the g6 pawn. You can't really play king f6 because it's a check and you lose the rook. So you can't really defend the g6 as well as the h5, because once the g6 collapses, h5 as well, and Black would be 2 pawns down, and eventually it would be a lost game. But it's a draw. Now let's discuss how it's a draw. So it's Black to play. The correct way to play in this position, you can try to pause the video and you can try to find the answer. What's the correct way to draw the position? If you're able to find the answer, even the Gukesh wasn't really able to find the answer. But if you did, it's just unbelievable. So let's quickly jump to the answer. It's Black to play, and the correct way is to play rook to c3, attacking the pawn on g3, which leaves White's an only option to capture the pawn on g6, giving a check and also defending the pawn. And here Black must play the move king f7 in order to just corner the White king. If you try to move the king, White is having the full intention to come up with the king, try to capture everything and still lose. So you must cut off the king. And here after king into h5, Black is 2 pawns down, but we simply wait. We simply move the rook on the third rank and nothing's happened. Now there are two ways to continue for White. White can either play the move rook g5 or playing the move g4. Let's see the move g4 first. After g4, Black can simply capture, and after rook takes, it's a draw. These 2 pawns, it's a draw because you can't really do much. King f6, rook comes, so that if Black comes here, White can give a check and try to make some progress. But Black is simply going to put the rook on the last rank, so that there would be many possibilities to give checks to the White king. Check, king g7, just taking off the last controlling last squares. Rook f5, rook comes, and eventually Black can give as many checks as Black wants. And eventually you can't do much. It's a draw. So that's the point. g4 is not really working. So White must play the move rook g5 to do something, trying to hit this pawn. Black defends it, king h6. The idea is to push the pawn somehow. We simply wait. White tries to push, White tries to push, and we have this final position. After h7, black still waits. The reason is quite simple. You can't play the move king because it's the maiden one. So white must play the move rook g1, and the idea is to give a check and try to, like for example, if here white will give a check and try to get just to move the king, and it's winning. Okay, just first play the move g4 so that there wouldn't be any checks, and after takes, now king g7, and it's a winning. But black is simply going to play the move king f7, removing this rook f8 ideas. And if you play the move rook g7, I simply go king to f6. King f8 is not really working because of rook g5, and you lose this pawn. And if you try to defend it, now g4 is a strong move. You cannot capture because the rook is hanged. So that's the real point. So white have to move the rook, and now we simply capture the pawn. And it's a Drawish endgame. You can't do much. If you give a check, I'll simply go king f6. The rook has already cut off the white's king, and it's a draw. You can't do much. So this is the way you should simply draw this endgame. So yeah, but okay, Gukesh wasn't really able to find this answer on the board. But yeah, at the first glance, it looks like black is completely destroyed in the position because white is getting 2 pawns. But it's a draw, which is actually unbelievable. Yeah, so definitely we can say that engines are extremely powerful. But yeah, eventually Param won the game. It is a very hard position to evaluate with that whether this position is winning or drawish. But perhaps Gukesh was not having an efficient time to decide the position is a draw or was losing. So, but yeah, this was the game where it was a draw, but Gukesh resigned. So if you like this video, then make sure to like the video, share this video with everyone, and try to ask them whether this position is a draw or a loss. It's going to be interesting fun for them to discuss with you guys. So yeah, I'm going to come up with these interesting videos like this. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching One Shot Chess.